Hello, Adobe Live. It is another episode of Social Media Makeover. I'm Lucas O'Keefe, and I'm running solo today. Usually, I'm joined by my good friend Phil Palin as we dive into all things social media, all things content creation, all things Adobe Express. We usually tackle that together. Phil is off to an exciting destination. I'll be giving a little preview on where that is shortly in some videos because even though he's not here and you're getting this intro from me, I am not running solo entirely. We'll definitely have some input from Phil, and he's going to be sharing some tips remotely. But today we are talking all about how you can organize and implement a strong collaboration post. So I find whenever we talk about collaborations, similar to Instagram Live, which we did in our last episode of Social Media Makeover, collaborations are one of those amazing features that get us tons of reach, tons of growth, but so many people haven't tackled them yet, and they can be intimidating. So it's for good reason. You're not alone if you're hearing anything today and thinking, I haven't done a collab yet, because the goal in what I'm sharing and what Phil will be sharing is to give you the tools and the confidence needed to be able to tackle this format. Because a collaboration, for anyone who doesn't know, especially in the Instagram lens, which is what we like to talk about here for the most part on Social Media Makeover, a collaboration post is something that is going to show up on the feed of you as the person who posts it, but also your collaboration partner. You can even have up to 3 other collaboration partners and be seen by tons of audience if you are sharing this. So we're going to dive into how you can use it. Speaking of audience, though, I do want to shout out our amazing Adobe Live audience. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know if you are an avid viewer of Social Media Makeover. Is this your first episode? Is this your second, third, fourth? Have you been along with us since the beginning? We are really framing this series, which is every 2 weeks, right here on Thursdays. It is a series that is going to build into a social media course. So we've covered all things and are continuing to cover all things social media. And I'll be watching the chat. I see Idara in there. I see Lori Ann. Hello. Thanks for tuning in. What I want to show is my favorite way to start off a collab. So I'm going to get into Adobe Express here. You know, that is our tool of choice right here on Social Media Makeover. And Phil and I, of course, love to share our interactive templates. So today, our template, which you should be able to get in the description, we'll try to get that shared to you in the chat as well. This is our template that is going to help you plan from start to finish, from plan to post, your very own collaboration post. So again, Phil and I have always tried to make sure you get a takeaway. If you've been watching since episode 1, you probably have a whole book of resources, whether it is digital, saved in your Adobe Express, or you've printed them off. We've made quite a few of these 8.5 by 11, so you can try to print them. And I see Idara posted that in the chat. You can take a look and get that remixable template yourself. But this is what we're going to dive into today. And as you can see, it's like a worksheet. That's the teacher in me. I love a good old-fashioned worksheet. It's like a worksheet that breaks down all the steps of planning and organizing and hitting post on a collaboration post. Just to highlight some examples, though, of what a collaboration post looks like and the different formats that are available. I'll be creating one live today, and again, using some great tools right here in Adobe Express that make either real-time or comment-based collaboration possible. I'm going to show you an example of some collaborations that I've done on Instagram and have posted. And of course, long before Phil and I had a show together, we were doing collaborations. So I'm going to hit refresh to just start this one at the beginning. But this is an Instagram post. As you can see, it is Phil and I posting it. It links to both of our accounts. And this is one we actually did as a partnership with Adobe Express. Let's just make sure. I'm going to hit refresh so we can make sure we're starting right from the beginning. You might miss the first few seconds, but here we go. This is a collab Phil and I did. Collaborate on social media content with Adobe Express's real-time collaboration feature. And to show you, I'll be designing a collaboration post with my good friend, Phil Palin. You ready to collab, Phil?
Sweetheart, I am ready if you are. Let's do this.
Phil and I started by hopping into Google Docs to draft up our script together. And if you love the way he can see my live cursor typing in the doc in real time, just wait until we take this content over to Adobe Express. Now that we're ready to design, Phil just invites me to the design template that he's made via email, and just like that, you can see us working through it in real time. We're creating this awesome post, but let's say we want to comment and give feedback on it as we go. Phil and I can tag each other and share our thoughts, even pinning these comments to specific aspects of the design that we want changed. I can change it just as much as he does. We both have full control over this project. It really does make the project come together fast, and we're ready to post it as an Instagram collaboration like the one you're seeing here.
And just like that, an Instagram-ready collaboration post. Thanks again, Phil.
Thank you. I'm just happy to be a part of it.
So there we go. That is a real collab that Phil and I shared on Instagram. I think that one was over a year ago, but that was when we first wanted to highlight these real-time collaboration features that you would have seen there in the video. And that was an example of a reel, of a video collab. You can see it was very simple. I just had Phil and I just organized on a script, and then we basically figured out, okay, which parts will be Lucas on video, which parts will be Phil on video, and we went back and forth and spliced it all together. And hopefully, I think we did a pretty good job, but hopefully you agree. Hopefully you'll see that we made it look like a pretty seamless conversation, even though in reality that was me filming my lines and sending that over to Phil, Phil taking his lines and filming those, and then having a video editor put it all together. It looked like a pretty seamless post. And we'll get to some tips and I'll repeat this, but one key thing you'll note there is if that were to show up on my feed, or if that were to show up on Phil's feed, as it would, either of our audience would recognize pretty quickly that it was someone they already follow. Oh, this is Lucas. This isn't some stranger. Oh, I'm one of Phil's followers. This is Phil's post. Great. That's what you want to have, and I'll definitely have Phil mention that in a moment. One other kind I want to highlight here. This is a more graphic style collab. This is a carousel post that uses more graphic design rather than a reel. I'll be actually designing something very similar to this using Phil and I's various brands and templates as well. But this is something that my good friend and fellow Adobe ambassador Ruben and I created. We did an Instagram post size dimension guide. We both realized, hey, these are things that our audiences both care about. He talks about UI UX design, but also how to get yourself seen as a designer. I talk about social media, and we found a lot of overlap in how our two audiences would benefit from knowing the very crucial sizes that are needed for social media and how to optimize your content so it gets seen and is noticed on the feed. And we created this carousel post together, which again is very simple, but just breaks down the optimal Instagram sizes. We talked about stories and those safety zones that you don't want to get your content cut off in. We had a very crucial, I want to highlight this, and you will see me highlight this. We had a very crucial end call to action slide, which highlights, hey, this is a post by Lucas, this is a post by Ruben or UI UX Creative, and we would likely tag ourselves, whoever posted it, we would tag our accounts right here so someone could just tap on the screen and automatically be taken to my account if they follow Ruben, or Ruben's account if they follow me. So it's a great way to really have that back and forth. And this is hopefully what you're seeing is the power of a collaboration post. 2 audiences, 3 audiences, even up to 4 audiences all in one. So I would like to know in the chat, let me know, have you ever posted a collaboration post? Have you seen a collaboration post that you liked or that maybe got you to follow someone new, but haven't posted your own yet? I want to know where we're all coming at from this in different levels and different access points, because again, I understand it is and can be an intimidating type of content to show up with, but you're going to experience significant gains to your engagement and to your audience by sharing a post like this as soon or as long as you do it the right way, which is where I'm going to bring in Phil. Surprise, surprise. Phil is going to be here. We have some awesome video clips. He'll explain where he's tuning in from, but Phil is going to share the very first important tip for choosing the right collaboration partner. So let's hear from him and see what he has to say.
Adobe Live fam, I wish I could be there live for this episode of Social Media Makeover, but the time zone, let's be honest, the lighting, natural lighting, didn't cooperate today. It's very early in the morning for me in Japan, but still, I'm right here with you for a few rapid fire videos that are gonna help you master Instagram collabs. Of course, you're gonna work with Lucas on this, and it's gonna be great. First up, choosing your partner. It's not about follower count, actually, it's about alignment. Look for someone who shares your values, has a similar audience, maybe a visual style that complements yours. Ask, what would both of our audience benefit from this? Do they post consistently? Do I trust their voice enough to share space on my feed? If yes, it sounds like you've met your match. Great collabs are built on mutual respect. That's really what makes them work and what makes them fun.
It's not about follower count, it's about alignment. That is something that I really like that Phil mentioned because, again, I find when we approach collabs, we think about, oh, I want to get the most followers. I want to collab with an account that is way bigger than mine so I can take advantage of their audience and their growth and use it for me. Well, sorry, that's not the optimal way to do a collab. I have a fairly large audience on Instagram, and I very often get strangers in my DMs saying, hey Lucas, I'd love to do a collab post with you. And I maybe don't know these people. They don't even follow me. I don't follow them. We don't really have any sort of relationship. So why are we going to do a collab post together? You'll find that the best people to collaborate with are the people already in your network, the people you've met at some amazing events. Ruben and Phil, I've met them at amazing events like Adobe Max. They've become very good friends of mine through the many projects we've worked on. So, of course, they were my go to choices for collaboration posts. And that, as Phil shared with us, is where you want to look. So I'm going to go back to our document that we have shared for you. And if we go to step one, it is, as Phil broke down for us, all about finding the right collab partner. And you can actually fill this in right here. It is editable. You can get old fashioned and export this as a PDF and print it and write on it in your own hands, with your own handwriting. I like that way. But you have tons of options. And your goal here is to think about who has a similar audience to you and to list some collab partners. So if I'm working in this document, I might write down, okay, my friend Ruben, I might write down how he has a similar audience to me. He focuses on design, the design community. Maybe that's something I want to overlap with, and I would love to be able to, you know, blend my audience who follows for social media tips. Well, graphic designers really need social media tips. They want to get their work out there. They want to connect with clients and share their portfolio and showcase their work. So Ruben would be great for me to collab with. I have Phil. And Phil is, of course, an AI strategist. And AI is so important these days. He's also a branding expert. I've learned a lot from him. So why not take the things I've learned from him? I'm going to put, we have overlap in branding and AI. Why don't I take the things that I've learned from him and we're going to turn it into a post for both of our audiences, which is what brings us to the next step. It's going to be answering the question, okay, what could both of your audiences gain from this? So let's say I am deciding I'm going to collab with Phil. Okay, we've of course done this wonderful show together. So sorry, Ruben, but I will have to reach out to you soon to do a collab. I'm highlighting Phil, and I want to think, all right, what could Phil and I's overlapping audience focus on? Well, I talk about social media tips. So let's put me, social media tips, content creation, things like that. Phil is focused on AI tools, AI strategy. Gotta make that I capital, I'm not too sure. AI tools / strategy and branding. And I just want to brainstorm and think about, okay, it looks like I can definitely create some overlap here between social media tips and content creation and AI tools and strategy and branding. Well, I think this Phil guy is a good person for me to collab with. And of course, that leads to our next step, which Phil will explain in a moment in our second video. But our next step is sending that pitch. Before I get into this template here, where you can actually, yes, we made it super easy because I like templates. You can fill out your pitch message right here. let's watch the second video from Phil where he shares his tips for sending a pitch to a potential collab partner. Let's see what he has to say.
So you found the one. Now it's time to slide into their DMs. Don't overthink this, by the way. Keep it casual, kind, and clear. Start with a compliment. That's what I do. Pitch the idea and then show the value. So something like, hey, Lucas, I loved your post about Instagram growth recently on Reels. I created something similar. What if we remix them together? So something like that is short, sweet, friendly. You're not selling, you're inviting. If it sounds like how you talk to a friend, then you're definitely on the right track.
So it really comes down to sending that DM. Let's take what Phil just shared with us. I think I actually took his exact words and turned it into this template, but it really comes down to just sending a message. And of course, with all templates, especially written templates, you may want to customize it yourself. On that note, I'm getting a nice little message here about using the rewrite tool. I think we'll have some fun with that in a moment, even though it's not what I planned. But let's say I'm going with, hey, Phil, I loved your recent post about branding for small businesses. I recently spoke about a similar topic on standing out with good social media content. How would you like to mix them together for a collab post? And I really want to highlight that mix them together idea, because when it comes to a collab, you don't have to, and you probably shouldn't have to, create something brand new that you've never spoken about before. This is a great time to take what you are an expert in, or what you know, and what your collab partner or collab partners are an expert in, and what they know, and to merge those two worlds. And you might think, yeah, but I talk about the same thing all the time for my audience. What if what if they don't want me to keep talking about these things? Well, you're going to be shown to a brand new audience. I'm going to be shown to Phil's audience with this post. They might not be used to me talking about this. And for my audience, who is used to seeing my content, they're going to see a brand new bit of information from Phil. So there's going to be that blending, there's going to be that mixing, there's going to be something to gain for everyone in this situation. And sending the post, sending that message is a great way just to see. You might not get a response. The person might say, hey, sorry, my content schedule is pretty busy. They might say, I actually don't see the overlap in our audiences. These are all okay things. Shoot your shot is what they say. And the same goes for collaboration. These are all okay responses. It's okay to hear that back because there's other people out there. That's why I suggest listing 3 potential collab partners, and you can keep on going from there. Something I actually do is I have a list of frequent collab partners, and I kind of just rotate through them. So I have maybe 8 people who I frequently collaborate with, and every 2 or 3 months, I go back to one of those people and we form a collab together. And if that's something that you're doing, that is a great way to continue to always have fresh collab topics without really running out or overdoing it, where it's just the same people every single time. So that's something I definitely recommend trying. But let me quickly show, because I wanted to highlight this rewrite here. If you are worried about this feeling like too copy and paste of a message, I love using the rewrite tool right here in Adobe Express. I've highlighted the text. Let's see, maybe I want to rephrase it. Maybe I want to shorten it. Maybe I want to lengthen it, or I want to change up the tone. Maybe I want to go, let's go casual and rephrase. I do like the length of it, and it's going to give me some options that I can share right here. And again, kept the length, which is what I wanted, and it's giving me something new. Let's see, replace. Hey Phil, I really enjoyed your latest post on branding for small businesses. I just chatted about how to shine with great social media content. Want to join forces and create an awesome collab post together? I like join forces. Maybe I will keep that for myself. But from there, you are really just sending out that post and seeing if the person replies. And this is a great way to track it here in the document. From there, we move on to step 3. You can see I have it all queued up here, and I'm going to actually get into designing the post right here in Adobe Express. But instead of hearing it from me, let's hear from Phil in our 3rd video, his tip for how to make sure a collab post, the content you're creating together, uniquely holds on to the identity of both people involved.
The best collab posts look like both creators had a hand in them. That's the goal, right? Something that blends your brands, speaks to both audiences. When Lucas and I teamed up for ours, we used one of my... The best collab posts look like both creators had a hand in them. That's the goal, right? Something that blends your brands, speaks to both audiences. When Lucas and I teamed up for ours, we used one of my remixable templates in Adobe Express. I sent over my brand kit, colors, fonts, logos, so that then he could make it his own while keeping it consistent. I think that's what he's actually going to do today. It's like a little visual handshake. You want your collab to feel authentic, cohesive, and unmistakably the two of you together.
So what we're going to do is exactly like Phil said, we're going to actually merge the visual identities of my content and his content to create a collab post that, as I said earlier, will be recognized and spotted by my audience as a post from me, and Phil's audience as a post from him. A big tip, again, I can't echo enough when it comes to collaboration, is you don't want to like shock your audience and have them say, I don't know this content style, I've never seen this before, I'm going to swipe past it. People like what's familiar to them. So in step 3, we have an excellent spot here for you to plan out the post. You can easily turn these into squares if you're doing a carousel. You can resize them, you can copy and paste them. But this is a great place to actually work with your collab partner and design it together. If I go ahead and share the post, let's return back to the post I did with Ruben here. And he and I made this post without actually having a spoken conversation with each other. We sent that DM message or something very similar to what I just shared in the guide, and the rest was actually just handled with messages and with comments. So if Phil were here, we would be collaborating in real time. You'd see his cursor all over the screen. You'd see my cursor all over the screen. And we've done that a lot on Social Media Makeover, and we'll be doing it again in the future. But today, because Phil's not here, I thought it was a perfect time to show how great the comments are for communication. So if I am communicating here with Ruben, I had some messages I maybe left for him here. So he said, I think originally there was a big, huge Instagram logo here. And I really wanted the focus to be on the square and the canvas size that people are going to use for this type of post on Instagram. So instead, I said, hey, maybe we shouldn't use the Instagram logo for this because it was right here in the middle, and instead we moved it outward to the side. So it's not overwhelming the actual thing. I want people to know the exact project size they can use, but instead it still holds on to the theme of Instagram by having these logos off to the side. Ruben even gave his thoughts too. He said something like, well, my intention here is to resize the dotted square and not the actual big black square. For example, a 1-to-1 perfect square, and so on and so forth. He asked me, does that make sense? Looks like it did make sense to me at the time because we definitely got this post done. But the great thing is these dots here are showing where he has mapped the comments. So we can see where the conversation is actively happening. Right here, that's the comment I click on, and it takes me to this comment I made with the logo. Right back to here, it takes me to this comment that he left about his thoughts for what he put here. And this is exactly how we ended up getting the post done. I think at one point we ended up doing a quick little, hey, I need to talk to you for 5 minutes if you can. And that was maybe a quick conversation, but we basically did this whole post entirely just commenting right here in Adobe Express, which was super fun. Now I'm going to do that, but Phil's not here. I'll leave some comments for him, but I want to make a post that matches both of our identities. And the good news is I can do that right here in Adobe Express because Phil has done something as he shared. He's put together a nice brand kit for me. So if I go to brands and click on it, I have Phil's brand, which he's been so generous to share with me. And it's loaded with tons of things like Phil's logo, Phil's fonts that he uses, Phil's colors, tons of photos. I'm always very jealous of Phil's photo collection, his professional photos that he gets done. But what I'm looking for here is the actual template. So he has loaded this in with a template that I can now use, similar to the template that we share all the time on Social Media Makeover. You can click on it and make your own copy, make your own file that isn't going to actually it's not going to change Phil's original. It's a brand new one that's been made right here. I'm trying to set some better habits for myself and actually name my files because my Adobe Express has a lot of untitled, untitled, untitled. So let's go ahead and name this Collab with Phil, April 2025, just so I know what the document's going to be. And what we have here is Phil's go-to template that he uses for text-based carousels. So I can be assured and I can feel pretty comfortable and confident that, yeah, I'm going to change some things here. I'm going to work within this document. Maybe I'll change the fonts. Maybe I will add some images and some icons or some shapes. But I can mostly make sure I'm sticking to Phil's look and feel of his content. And that's important because as I post this, I want Phil's audience to recognize, okay, this is similar enough to be a Phil post, but oh, who's this other guy on the post? Oh, I like the tips that he's sharing. Maybe I'll follow him too. So these are some things you want to highlight. But I'm going to go ahead and input this carousel. So I like how Phil likes to put a bit more text on his, but this is a Phil and Lucas post, not a Phil only post. So I'm going to say goodbye to those and add my own details here. And we're going to put some text. We got want to stand out, because again, we're talking about the importance of branding and standing out in social media. Want to stand out on Instagram in 2025. Now, again, I'm using his font, but if you look at my Instagram, I like to use much bigger text boxes. I like to have everything a bit more laid out. I like that. Probably what we're going to go with. And otherwise, I do have a pretty similar kind of look in my carousels to what we're seeing here. Want to stand out on Instagram in 2025. I'm going to keep Phil's logo, but because it's not just a post from him, it's a post from me as well. I do want to use his font. I'm going to take this box and maybe on top, I think I do like that. On top here, I'm going to put my username. So now we have two things. We have Phil's logo on the bottom, which is right at home with his content if you look at his carousel posts. And then on top, we have my username. So someone's seeing this, maybe you're seeing this, you follow just Phil. Maybe you follow just me, maybe you follow both of us. You're quickly piecing together, all right, this is not just Lucas's post. This is not just Phil's post. As Phil highlighted in his tip that he shared, it's important to have this, not just have one person's brand overwhelm here. Let's see what we can do. I think I like that a little bit better. Instagram is always a tough word. I use it in most of my carousels, of course, but it's such a long word. Sometimes I might do IG and go from there and then drop that down a bit. But I think in this case, I do like Instagram. There we go. Making sure that's nice and centered. Maybe I'll drop down Phil's logo a tiny bit. So let's get both of everything. Just so it's all together. And I think I like that. It's showing me it's pretty evenly spaced. And what I'm going to do now is, just in case, I'm obviously going to work pretty heavily with these pages here, but I'm going to make sure everything's all in the same spot before I get going and just make sure that I can just paste that. I like to make sure, again, I am changing some things from Phil's document. So regardless of what pages I end up using, I might not end up using any of these and just make my own by duplicating, but just to be sure, let's get all that done. I made a whole post once on how to proofread your content before posting, and it really highlighted, like, read it backwards because your brain will help recognize, oh, that doesn't look right, or that's out of place. And there's a lot of different things you can do. This is something Phil has. Maybe that's exclusive to like his kind of content, but I'm probably not going to use that, so I'll delete it. I actually I might delete the whole page and turn this into some sort of call to action slide. Let's go ahead and just populate all the information we're trying to share. Want to stand out on Instagram in 2025. When I'm doing a good carousel post, I like to do all of the text first. And maybe you are like Phil and you do a lot of very text heavy content. in this realm of video and reels, there is still some really good room for text only carousels. I have one that is doing very well on Instagram right now as we speak, so I can definitely vouch for the fact that this type of content is good. It's not just a video only world anymore on social media, something I find quite refreshing. But I want to start with my second slide. Phil always highlights how much I like carousels, and I do love them. Something unique about carousels is it's the only content on Instagram that will actually be shown twice to your audience. So let's say this is my first slide, as it will be. This is what people will see when they first log on to Instagram and see my post on the feed. If they happen to not really want to read this or they're busy, hopefully they like my content. But if they don't read this post and they just kind of scroll past it or close out of Instagram, not all hope is lost, because carousels have the unique advantage where moments later, a few hours later, a few days later, Instagram might show it a second time, starting with this second slide instead. Kind of giving it a second chance. Like, you know what? Maybe this hook wasn't doing it for them. Want to stand on Instagram, but maybe this one will. So I always plan my second carousel slide as almost a second cover or a second front slide. So let's go ahead and make this like a good hook question. We started with want to stand out on Instagram in 2025. So I'm going to answer that question. Standing out starts with a scroll stopping brand. Standing out starts with a scroll stopping brand. I want to now highlight nice and early that it is a collaboration post. So people, if they haven't clued in now why there's two names on the top and bottom of this post, they can learn, they can see why. Here's how to make yours unforgettable with tips from at the Lucas O'Keefe and at Phil Pal. Name. He got his name for his Instagram handle. I was stuck with the Lucas O'Keefe because another Lucas O'Keefe out there got the Instagram handle before me. If you're out there, Lucas O'Keefe, we need to talk. But here we go. This is my secondary slide. Again, I can do something like make it bigger because I do want this to kind of grab attention a bit more. Maybe that'll stand out a bit. There we go. So again, if someone's scrolling, they might skip past this. And then hours later, they're back on the feed, they're back on Instagram, and they're going to all of a sudden read this and go, oh, I haven't seen this post, or I don't remember seeing this post. This is a much better hook that makes me want to tune in and check out what it's all about. Oh, it's a collab from Lucas and Phil. That's why there's their names on the top and bottom of this post. All things that, again, sounds like I'm kind of going over the top explaining them, but you never know what is going to be the thing that hooks that content and hooks with that content and grabs someone's attention. I'm going to go ahead and fill out the rest of the slides using Phil's template. So the first tip here, I'm going to go back to his style because Phil likes to do these like numbered checklists, which I really like too. So I'm going to go ahead, pick one thing to be known for. Let's expand that a bit. I am copying and pasting from a document just so you don't have to watch me type. And I'm going to break from what Phil has, where Phil does, 2 per post. Phil had originally 2 points per carousel slide. My style is a bit more to do 1 post that really breaks it down, gives people templates, as you saw from the worksheet, the free template we've given you today. I like to have it all, a lot of detail packed into one. So here's another way that I'm blending Phil's style with my own. So here we go. Number 1, for a standout Instagram brand, pick one thing to be known for. Your brand should be crystal clear. If people can't describe you in 1 sentence, your niche isn't focused enough. Tip, try this test. So try to fill this out for yourself. People follow blank. People follow Phil because of his great personality and easy to follow communication style. Think of your favorite content creators and ask yourself that question about them. Why do people follow them? Why do you follow them? I'm going to keep going. Now that I have this slide that I like, I'm really just going to keep duplicating it because again, I like Phil's template, but I've already kind of modified my own. So I'm going to delete some of these just so it doesn't get too messy. There we go. I always leave one or two just so I can go back to it. But let's carve out the rest of this carousel. Tip number 2, build a visual identity that people feel. Hope you're getting some tips from this too. And your colors, fonts, and vibe should spark emotion. A strong visual brand isn't just pretty, it's memorable. That's the message I'm trying to send here. Let's put that in there. And our tip this time, pick 1 to 2 brand colors that reflect the feeling you want people to associate your content with. There we go. I love working from content that I already have or that someone else has already made, like I'm using with Phil's here. And then I just I duplicate that page there and just keep adding different actual text to it. That's something that I've done here with Phil's, but I've done that with my own content too. Whenever I start with a carousel post of my own, I kind of use my own content as a template. And I encourage you to do the same because, again, like it's showing in this point, you want a visual identity that people recognize and people feel. I'm not going to spend too long on this carousel post because I do want to continue with the rest of our collaboration tips. So I'll just finish it up. I'll just finish it with 3 points this time. And Phil's next one that he shared is to be the face of your brand, not just the feed. So be the face, not just the main feed. People trust people. Showing up with your face, voice, or stories builds instant connection and trust. I'm going to share a tip here, which if you've been tuning in for a few weeks of Social Media Makeover, you maybe have seen this strategy, but I'm putting a tip here. Use the story, STORY method in your stories to stay visible without burning out. This is a very common technique that I share with my audience. So while I'm not actually mentioning it in the post, this is a nice little throwback to my audience who goes, oh, I follow Lucas. He talks about the STORY method all the time. Yeah, I know what that is. Maybe someone from Phil's audience who has never seen me or my content before is going to comment and say, what's the STORY method? And there we go. That's good engagement. That's a good way for me to step in and leave some supportive comments. That's going to show people this isn't just a collab post. This is me sharing useful value to Phil's audience, and I'd like to get to know you all as well. So let's just quickly do a call to action slide. I'm going to go ahead and let's delete this one. I want to show my favorite way to create a call to action slide, and it's kind of like a sandwich. My final slide of the post, I usually just duplicate my first slide of the post. So here we go. We're duplicating that. I'm dragging it over to the back. And now we have the first and last slide are the exact same. And for this one, I'm going to put, let's put a kind of snappy go away line. Are you ready to make your brand unmissable? I can shrink the font a little bit. And that kind of goes full circle with what we're talking about here. Sometimes too, I like to align my final slide to center. So here we go. You ready to make your brand unmissable? That kind of works with some of these really long words I'm using, like unmissable. Let's work with it a little bit. I like that. That's better. So again, it's, yes, I copied my first slide, but I'm also making it slightly different so people can tell that it's not the beginning of the post. I like this text box, so I'm going to bring it over to here. And this is where I'm going to write my call to action. And don't forget, here, let me move that out of your way so you can see it. Are you ready to make your brand unmissable? Let's do well. Don't forget to follow Lucas O'Keefe and Phil Palin for more content tips and branding insights. See how I commented on what Phil does and what I do. There we go. Let's make sure those are nice and centered. There we go. So you might be looking at this saying, yeah, that's pretty text heavy overall, right? I like to zoom out and actually look at the full project here. You might say, wow, that's pretty text heavy. Well, that's what Phil and I both share. Please go look at both of our pages and you'll see, okay, this has some common elements of Lucas's content, especially these kind of carousels here. I do big text, single lines, but it's all Phil's fonts, it's all Phil's colors. It's very much unique to both of our content. And I'm pretty confident if I were to share this, his audience and my audience would both recognize it. I'll see if we have some time to add visuals in a moment because we will be doing that. But something I want to do first is I want to talk about actually getting to the point of posting this. But before we post it, something we like to do is build buzz and build hype around the upcoming collab. Yeah, you can just post and have it go out there, and maybe your audience will see it and Phil's audience will see it. But it's also better to capitalize on it by treating it like a launch. Tell people you're doing a collab with a surprise guest. Tell people that something is coming up soon that they're going to want to tune into. That's a great way to do it. But again, let's hear it from Phil. So Phil's going to share his fourth tip for a good collab, and he's going to talk about what goes into generating hype or generating buzz for your content. So let's see what he has to say.
Hey, you worked hard on this collab, okay? I know you did. Don't just post it and hope for the best. Treat it like a launch. So start with a teaser and stories, maybe a countdown sticker or a sneak peek. Once it's live, keep up the momentum, repost it, reply to comments, DM a few people that you know would love it. They might not even see it thanks to Instagram's algorithm. A post can live way longer when you actually build buzz around it. You showed up, now let people see it.
So there we go. We're going to generate hype. We're going to generate buzz. Phil's favorite way, my favorite way, is to do that with Instagram stories. You could also do something like an Instagram live, either before the collab or the day of the collab or after the collab. Phil and I talked all about how to optimize Instagram live on our episode of Social Media Makeover 2 weeks ago. So do check that out and check them all out because, like I said, they do blend together like a social media course with all the different channels and avenues on Instagram and other platforms that you'll want to show up on. But let's turn this carousel post that's going to be posted to both our feeds as a collab. Let's turn it into a story. And I want to highlight one of my favorite Adobe Express features, which is resize, but it's going to resize it all within the same project. So this is a 1080 by 1350 pixel carousel post. That's my go-to dimensions that I like to use for my project when it's a carousel post, but I'm going to make it an Instagram story. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And on top of that, what we're going to do is we're going to, instead of duplicating and making it separate, we're just going to resize it right here. And on the same page, we now have a story. I actually do want to duplicate. Sorry, I was too busy talking. But I want to have my original cover and I want to have my new story. So here we go. Now, there we go. You can see I have my original cover photo. That's unchanged. That's the 1080 by 1350 pixel carousel cover. But I also just created this story that, as you can see, is the story dimensions, 1080 by 1920 pixels. I can do this and have it all in the same project, which is nice because we're going to make a story to promote it. And as I said, I'm already having trouble keeping my files organized. So why make multiple different files when I can have it all here in one? We're going to have this into a story. And what we're looking at right now, that's not an Instagram story. Right? Instagram stories, as we've learned, are all about showing up, being human, having the person, or in this case, the people behind the post on highlight. So we're going to add some images here. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to delete me and Phil's names from this because this one is going to be a story. I'm going to tag on Instagram his account and my account, so I don't need our names. Let's put that up there. Want to stand out on Instagram in 2025. I like to borrow the text. And let's do a nice coming soon. New post coming soon. How about that? Let's do caps. All right, new post. Want to stand out on Instagram in 2025. And of course, let's highlight that this is being done by Phil and I. And this is where it's getting kind of fun because I am now using the brand that is my personal content. As you can see here, I have way fewer. Let me go back to that. I have way fewer photos compared to Phil. That's where I'm a little bit jealous of him. But I'm going to go ahead and make sure people recognize this is a Lucas post and this is going to be a collab or this is going to be a Phil post. So we'll go ahead and remove the background on me and let's just have me right there. Like another favorite feature of mine. Stories are all about the people, as I've said. So while it's text only content, the carousel itself is just going to be text. One of our tips, be the face, not just the feed. People trust people. Showing up with your face, voice, or stories builds connection and trust. So that's what I'm doing. And I want a key takeaway I want you to know from this is you don't just have to show up with your face on your main feed content. A lot of my content is text only. A lot of Phil's content, if it's not his videos, which are phenomenal, is text only. He might use, or I might use stories to put my face into it or my unique personality into it, or Instagram Live. There's so many different ways for you to show up. Find what works for you. So here we go. There's me. And, oh, closed out there. Let's find a nice picture of Phil that we can use. It's nice to have all these different brands that I can access. He's got them so well organized. Phil, you have too many good photos to choose from. Let's try, this looks similar to my pose. Yeah, that's something I could probably have match me pretty well. So let's make the sizes similar. I'll probably switch our spots. All right, we're about the same size. Let's remove the background on that one. And then what we'll do while that's working, I think I will probably want, because Phil's arm is a little cut off, so let's put Phil, because the photo wasn't just fully him. So let's switch spots between me and Phil. That is looking very good. I'm a little bit taller than him. There we go. Okay, we got both of us. That would look pretty at home on both of our feeds. We might move this up. And then that is going to be a great way to promote the content. Coming soon. Want to stand out on Instagram in 2025. You can also have some fun with it too. Maybe I want to, let's see, maybe I want to completely, that's fun. I'm going to show how I do that again. Okay. Because maybe I want to take Phil's photo and this is being posted to just my feed. Okay. So I want to preview that there's a post coming up, but I don't want to give away that it's Phil. We're generating buzz, we're generating hype, we're generating excitement. So I'm going to go to the photo here of Phil. I'm going to go to effects just so we can see how I'm doing that. We got effects up here at the top. And I'm going to apply a tone to it that I can increase or decrease the intensity of. I want to fully increase the intensity because I want him to disappear. And I think that's looking a lot of fun, right? I'm going to post that to my stories and my audience is going to say, okay, Lucas is clearly sharing a collab post, but who's it with? Or maybe because Phil and I do have some overlapping audience, people are going to say, that's definitely Phil Palin. I could spot him from a mile away. I watch Social Media Makeover and I see these two together all the time. Let's go ahead and add some fun things like a question mark. Let's put that there. Nice and fun. Have some fun with these kind of features. I actually like adding kind of like different shadows behind my person and having like a triple shadow or duotone shadow to go with my images. I think I've shared that before in the past. But now this is a fun little story that I can make interactive in two ways. So if I post this directly on Instagram, I can make a little bit more space here. Always try to make a few copies, I would say, when you're doing stories, because so many of the stickers, the interactive stickers on Instagram, are going to need a certain amount of space. You don't want to have them on the outskirts of the post. I actually think I've saved in my brand kit, just funny that I have this. In a previous episode, Phil and I have made the story safe zones, which is something I've just added to my personal brand because I pull it up all the time. But I want to make sure that anything I'm posting is not going to be in these red zones, which if I drop the opacity here, I can see, all right, make sure that red is clear. So maybe new post, I want to drop that down. But move it around, kind of figure out what works. This clear space is nice and open. I can do two different things here. I can add a countdown sticker and I can say, get ready to watch the collab, tap here to get notified when it goes live. And I can set a countdown for the day of the post and people can get notified on Instagram when it goes live. Or of course, I can put the Q&A sticker, the question box sticker, maybe call it either of those, and say, who do you think I'm collabing with? And tune in on Wednesday to find out. But people will probably generate engagement by saying, I have no idea who that is, or that's Phil, I know it 100%, right? So have fun with stories, generate hype and buzz. As Phil said, something cool that I can do here is I can quickly duplicate it, right? We're duplicating the post. Let's go ahead and take off the uh, darken effect that we put on Phil, and let's apply it to me. And look at that. Now, who's posting this story? Phil's going to post this story, and I'm going to be the mystery person who might be his guest. And he's going to generate hype and buzz that way. And we can switch back between the two of us. It's very fun to see. Or I can go and look at everything I've already contributed to this project, to this file, and I can see, all right, this is something that I can send to Phil and automatically he can leave comments, he can let me know what he thinks, but he also has it all right here in one place. Maybe you use things like a shared Google Drive folder to send files to people. And that takes a lot of time because you have to then download the projects, upload them to Google Drive, send that folder to your collaboration partner or your colleagues or people you're working with. They have to then download it themselves and post it. Phil and I can both just have this on Adobe Express. He can just download it when he needs it, download just the story, download the whole post because only one of us needs to post it, and we're all set. From there, we're talking posting. We all know how to do that. When you're going to post a collab on Instagram, you just go to the tag section and you can add someone. But Phil has one more crucial tip that I'm going to leave you away with, and it is the fifth tip from him about how to organize a collab, and it's the most crucial part in my opinion. Yes, you have to create the content, but let's see this very important tip he's going to leave us with.
Once your collab is live, this is exciting. This is when the real work begins. Engagement. Think of yourself as the host of a party. Reply to every comment, especially from your partner's audience. Make them feel welcome. Add your partner to your Instagram favorites. That's a good idea so that you never miss their posts. I also like switching to the chronological feed. It helps you catch people in the moment. This is like prime time to show up, be helpful, make a killer first impression. You got this. It's going to be great.
So you heard it right there. That is why we are right here on Adobe Live. We are building community. We are engaging. We are part of a wider community that is making social media social. So after you've posted the collab, you don't want to miss the important part, which is engaging and actually interacting with the people who are commenting on the post you shared. It's more crucial than ever. Yeah, I talk about how engaging is very important on social media in general, but it's extremely important if you want a successful collab post because you know that new people, new audiences who follow your collab partner and probably not you are going to have their eyes on the content. They're going to be leaving comments and support and starting conversations. So the last part of this document, which again, you can find it in the description. If you're watching this on the replay, you can find it in the chat right now. But in our collab template that we've put together for Adobe Express, you can make sure you go through these steps. Reply to all the comments you get. Introduce yourself to any commenters who weren't from your audience. Consider sharing the post to your story and tagging the other person. I just shared some great stories that you can use to promote the post. Pin the top 3 comments that drive the most conversation, and spend 10 to 15 minutes replying to stories to strike up good engagement and good conversation. These are all the things that go into a nice and successful collaboration post. You can go ahead and try it yourself. I really can't stress enough how important collabs are on Instagram. They're an excellent tool, and Phil and I would love to see you trying one out yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Social Media Makeover. Phil, thanks for joining us from Japan. Lucky you. And we will see you next time.